What a lad. Well, I've often loosely used the term one of the greats on this podcast, especially in the introductions. But today I am joined by literally one of the all-time greats of the game. He's in the conversation of the greatest player of all time. He truly has had an incredible career where he's achieved so much along the way. His longevity and consistency in the game has been special, having played over 153 test matches. He's been to 4 Rugby World Cups, winning 2 of them. He's won a whopping 7 Super Rugby titles, and the list goes on and on. On top of all that, he is a champion dad and an absolute lad. It is one of the greats, Samuel Whitelock. Welcome, mate.
Thanks, Jimmy Ma. I was a little bit worried when you roped me into doing it, what the intro would be. I know there's always been a bit of heat coming in, but mate, that's an outstanding intro. So,
Mate, you thought I was going to bag you, and I was like, how can I bag one of the all-time greats?
oh mate, there's been a bit of banter between you and I the last year and a half, 2 years, especially with the kids playing together and you being younger than me and being the coach at the Crusaders. So there's been a bit of stick coming forward. So I thought it'd be the same, but no, you're being nice, so I'll let you have it.
Mate, you've been a hard man to track down, that's for sure, to try and get on this podcast, but stoked to finally have you on, and especially on the back of some of your latest news where you've officially announced your retirement post this season with Poe. So, mate, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like I've had so many messages, emails, phone calls, conversations, and people are just so supportive of what we've achieved so far. And like it's weird because we're still right in the middle of a season. And,
Yeah.
people are saying, well done, and I'm like, mate, I want to play the best rugby I've ever played, yet. So it's kind of weird, but at the same time, we understand that we've been playing rugby for a long time and just looking forward to the next chapter. But we definitely want to make sure I'm sprinting across the line and it's just doing what I've always done, and hopefully my rugby reflects that rather than limp across the line and be that guy that used to go right out there.
How hard was that decision for you? Like, obviously your body's still in great nick. You're playing outstanding rugby still. How hard's the decision to walk away at the top?
Yeah, it's a hard decision, and I think anyone that knows me pretty well knows me that I love gathering information. So I've been talking to people for a couple of years now around when is the right time, and the one thing that keep coming through is everyone said you better have to play one less season than one too many, and that's for ourselves as rugby players or sportsmen, because there's nothing worse when the body just says no. And the other one is around family. Like I'm got 3 awesome kids and a lovely wife, so it's actually hardest on them. So it was kind of a tough decision to make because I still feel like I'm playing pretty good rugby, but it's nice to be able to say, hey, look, this is going to be the end point, and then just attack it till we get there.
Yeah, not many people retire or announce their retirement as they're getting chased by the All Black coach. So Razor obviously threw a bit of a spanner in the works the few weeks before leading up to your announcement, chasing you to get you back in the black jersey. Was that part of it?
Mate, there was a lot of clickbait going on there for a bit, and I felt sorry for Ray because he's so super excited about his job, and he's going to do an awesome thing. So
yeah.
Like for me, I was never going to just make the decision by myself. I was always going to talk to people I trust, and obviously gave Ray a call and bounced a few ideas off him, more as a friend. And, so that's where the conversation, so I started that conversation, and then all of a sudden there's all these articles mates are sending me, and it's pretty easy for me over here being pretty terrible at speaking French. I'm slowly getting better. So I didn't know what was going on. I don't really do the social media thing too much. I'm on it to keep in contact with a few mates. So there was a bit of heat there, but there was quite a bit of speculation, and I think people were jumping on board wanting to know what was going on, and I didn't really know what was going on. So all it was speculation really at the start.
I guess one thing around when people retire, or especially when they're in such good physical and still in that state where they can still play so well, they're always chased as soon as injuries come up. So I know this is going to happen to you at some point over the next few years. a team's going to have a few injuries and they're all going to come after you, Samuel Whitelock.
Oh, like I think that's pretty humbling to hear. But like the reality is, I don't think that competitive edge will ever stop. Like I
Mm,
think even if I'm lucky enough to get 70, 80, 90, whatever years old, there's still going to be that part of me that'll go, oh, maybe one more.
yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to be able to throw away the boots or give them away and be like, look, just get rid of them all out of the house so there's no possibility. I'm pretty sure I'll hang on to a pair or two just in case if someone rings and hey, we need you. I always loved the story about I think it was BJ Lahore, leaving that note on the dining room table. His wife comes home and goes, "Where is he?" And there's the note saying, "Hey, I've just got to Wellington to play a test match." So part of me always loves that, and um, never say never, but I think when you say you're done, you've got to actually be done. Otherwise, you can't. You got to come away with egg on your face because you get back out there and get smoked. So, um, yeah, I think that's where it ends up.
Oh, mate, listening to that, there's no way you're done.
Yeah.
You've got 2 or 3 more seasons left in you.
No, it's just no, it's what it is. But
Yeah.
I think that's the family, you know, genetics or what we always did as family, and that competitive edge is always there. And probably at times got out there when I shouldn't have, with a few injuries and things like that. And it's just that competitive edge that sometimes people don't see at the front, but it is definitely there somewhere. And
Mm.
yeah, I don't think you ever can turn that off.
Yeah, 100%. And then you spoke around what's next. So with you and your family, what is next for the Whitelocks?
We have a pretty good idea, but at the same time, the big decision was: are we going to play or are we going to stop playing? So that was the thing we spent so much time and energy on,
Mm.
and it was challenging. Some days I'm like, "Nah, we're done." Then other days like, "Nah, I'm keen to carry on," and went back and forth. And the coaches and the club here were awesome. They gave me the space and gave me the time to think. But the next step will have some type of farming in it. So we have the farm in Hawke's Bay. So we'll go back and set up camp there. We've gone winter to winter, so pretty keen to enjoy some of the European summer and do a bit of travel as a family because we've never had that opportunity. We've always been right. Hey, rugby's around the corner. We've got to do this. Got to train. So looking forward to spending more time with them. Where we're going to go, don't know. When we're going to get home, don't know. But looking forward to working a few of those things out over the next couple of weeks and months and so.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. That'll be an awesome way to sort of finish it over there. And coming back to farming, I see your face pop up as a farmer on the TV on this ad all the time. So it's good that you're going to stick to your word and be a true farmer.
Yeah. It's easy when you're over here. You don't have to watch TV. You don't see that stuff, so don't actually know what's going on in NZ.
But obviously, life after rugby is something comes up a lot on this podcast. How tough it is, the challenges that people face. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for you?
There's going to be heaps, and I'm really aware. Like I've got two older brothers that have done it, and I've got a younger brother that's going to do it soon, whether that's in a couple of years or whenever. So I've kind of had the front row seat to see what it can go like. Obviously, talked to a lot of people, had a lot of good mates that have finished. They've gone down the rugby road, so they've gone into coaching or skill work and stuff. But then I've also had guys that have just gone right. I'll completely get away from rugby and do something different, study again, or go back to a trade. But I think the hardest thing is actually you kind of got to work out what works for you. And I don't know what's going to work for me, but I do know with my personality, I'm going to need something to be competitive in, whether that's training or the farm. I think that's going to take a lot of that competitive side of it. So whether I'm looking at the neighbours and what they're doing and trying to, have a nice clean paddock and be better than them, or just comparing with, friends and family and what they're up to. So, um, yeah, don't really know what it looks like, but I really hope rugby is there somewhere. I've been privileged to learn off some of the world's best coaches, players, seen them operate. So I'd be really upset with myself if I didn't pass on some of that knowledge, whether that's to my daughter's netball team, whether it's to my son's rugby team, don't know yet, but I definitely want to give back in some shape.
Mate, you're going to have the best farm on the planet with that competitive nature that you've got.
Yeah, it's a curse, but also it's a strength as well. So sometimes you just got to be aware of it, which is the first step.
Yeah, and I guess you're obviously in Poe at the moment. How have you found it? How have you and the family enjoyed it over there?
Well, I think my French is probably worse out of the whole family. I think the kids have picked up
Oh,
more. My
really?
wife's better than me, but no, the guys have been awesome. Eh? Like I've really enjoyed connecting back up with Luke and his wife Claire and their son Jack. So really cool spending heaps of time with them. And I've been here for 4, almost 5 years, I think. So they often say, "Hey, should we do this?" And I'm like, "Nah, do this." So it's like a personal
Mm.
traveling guides that have done it before. And if you go out for a coffee or catch up, if someone speaks French, I just pretty much point to Luke and he says what needs to be said, and then I kind of just chill out and don't have to do too much. But cool spot here. Eh? Like Poe's very similar to New Zealand, and I think that's why a lot of Kiwis have come here, and they've just enjoyed a small town. It's close to the Pyrenees, close to the beach, so you've kind of got best of both worlds. It's been a couple of really hot days lately, so a couple of 30-degree days. So hopefully it doesn't get as hot as it can do. It does get close to 40 in the middle of summer, but everyone's pretty close to a pool or a river, and you kind of just chill out and sit under the shade and
Yeah.
enjoy the southwest of France.
Yeah, how good. And how have you found the footy side of things? You obviously played a huge stint here in New Zealand. How's it been to mix it up with a new competition, new style?
Yeah, it's exactly that. So actually really enjoyed trying to work out how to have a difference here. And everyone in general says the bigger guys here play maybe a slower style but more physical style, which is pretty close. But in saying that, enjoying because I don't speak the language and there's a few words that you're picking up, but sitting in team meetings, not knowing what the coach wants, so you kind of just got to make it up as you go and trust your gut a little bit, or ask someone that's got a bilingual and can give you a few words with what was being said. But really enjoyed the challenge, and it's just completely new. So over here, playing a new team this week, and you kind of go, well, I haven't played them before. How do they play?
Mm.
And that's actually been the exciting part, is you actually get to. Um, there's no like idea in your head. You've actually got to go find out. Do they play expansive? The good forward pack, a full forward pack? Do they run with the ball? So I've really enjoyed that side of it, actually getting to know who the key players are, and actually just being a novice to it all because I don't have that knowledge of years of playing against these teams and these people.
Yeah, mate, that's interesting, but must be quite refreshing for you considering how many times you would have played some of the teams over here. And I guess we'll get to that because we do have heaps to get through. And I'm not sure how you get through sort of 350 odd games in one episode of What a Lad, but we'll start to where we always start on the podcast, which is how you grew up, the young Samuel Whitelock. How was it?
Yeah, I don't know if should say this, but um, one of four boys, but mum had the first two and I was number three. So mum was convinced I was going to be a girl. Like they all thought I was going to be a girl, but then came out as a boy. And then mum was real keen on a daughter, so went again, and four boys. So
Sounds familiar.
um, yeah. So yeah, you'll go again and searching for that daughter. So um, so that was kind of the start of the upbringing. So I got heaps of stick about that when I was younger from the older two brothers, and still get it now. But I had an awesome upbringing. Had this amazing, rural upbringing, dead end road, so we could just cause carnage, and we were pretty rough around the edges. Dad should probably be on here. He'd give you all the good insight. But we used to be able to climb out of the tennis court over the net from a pretty early age because we were pretty wild. And Dad used to talk about turning up the electric fence to try keep us in an area, but we soon learned to go under it or over it. And we had a couple of fox terriers that would take you around the farm. They'd chase rabbits, kill possums, and do all those things. So that was our release, like get home from school and just get out on the farm and kind of just do our own thing. And yeah, I think that's why we're pretty rough around the edges, especially early on.
Mate, causing all sorts of havoc out there.
Yeah.
I'm guessing rugby was always like rugby was the only really option for you too, wasn't it? Like your dad was a legend for Manawatu, and I know you've got probably some of the best rugby genes possible. Was rugby just always the one?
It was a sport that is probably the most consistent through our lives. Like it was always there, but
Yeah,
we were always encouraged to give anything a go. So uh, George and Adam played a bit of tennis, did heaps of athletics, all four of us. Adam was definitely the gun at athletics, loved all his running events, 800, 1500 and all that stuff. So we were the guinea pigs, like the old, you go and I'll chase you down and how far you can go before we catch you, you
yeah,
catch us. So we kind of just didn't really care what it was. We just gave it a crack. And the cool thing is there's only 5 years between all four of us. So we were all best mates. Yeah, we had our disagreements and there'd be the odd dust up here and there, but dad and mum were awesome with us. They pretty much said, look, you need to look after each other. So whenever anything went down, we always stuck together. But we, I don't know how much I should give you here, but we used to lock babysitters out and, um, yeah, so I remember when we were, I would have been about 5 or 6, being made to bike down to the neighbours who was our babysitter, and we like set a trap for her, got her outside, locked the doors in the house, and then mum and dad come home an hour later from wherever they've been, and the babysitter's outside crying. So the next day, we were made to bike down to say sorry. So all lined up in age order. George, being the oldest, had to take the lead and apologise. And then as it went down, it went from like 10 words to 7 words to two to one,
yeah.
um,
Sorry.
yeah. And then that was just us though. Like we just loved getting up to mischief. And um, the best thing is it kept us close. And that's why we're still pretty close now.
Yeah, mate, how good's that? And who was the gun at rugby back in the backyard, I guess.
Um, the gun at rugby, like I was the only forward. So I think George started on the wing,
Oh yeah.
Adam was on the wing, and Luke was first five. So I think when Luke was under 13, he was playing for Manawatu under 13s, and he was at 10, and it was the biggest dive by like miles. And then I think they're like, okay, you need to move into the forwards now and do that. And George obviously moved into forwards, kind of just started on the wing and just moved his way in, and then eventually ended up as a loose forward. Adam probably should have ended up in the forwards, but wanted to stay out there and do all the fancy things and score tries. So um, definitely, older brother, you always looked up to them because they were making these teams and being successful. So Luke and I were pretty much just followed what those guys were doing. And if they were out passing a ball, we wanted to do the same. So for a while there, they wouldn't pass us the ball and we just had to find a way to get it
Yeah.
and do it. So we were always just competing against people bigger and stronger. And um, yeah, that's just what it was for us in the rugby circles. And um, yeah, it didn't matter what sport, whether it was basketball or athletics, we just wanted to do what they were doing.
Yeah, and you've got a crazy sort of bloodline of rugby, eh? Obviously, your three other brothers all played in the black jersey. Ben Fennell, relation cousin, is he?
Yeah, so Ben's first cousin, Hamish Dalzell,
Yeah.
another cousin on the other side. We're actually related to Will Jordan, but like second cousins.
Yeah, I
So
messaged him last night about this. He said it's my blood auntie's husband is his mother's brother. And I was trying to work
yeah,
out what relation that is, but I can't believe you're related to the great Will Jordan as well.
yeah. So it's all through marriage.
Yeah.
But it's quite cool having Joe on a few teams, and when he does something good, he's Cuzzy, but when he's terrible, he's Will Jordan. So
Not related.
yeah. But I'm sure he does the same to me. But yeah, had just a extended family that loved rugby and loved competing, and it was pretty cool whenever we catch up with cousins. It was just like a big gang got together and would go cause some carnage or play sport. And like our primary school, I think we had about 70 or 80 kids there, and 10 of them were probably cousins, and they were a little bit older than me, so I just wanted to do what they were doing again. And pretty cool that we got to play some professional games with and against cousins.
Yeah. When did you think rugby would be a potential career path for you?
Well, I never did. Going to a
True.
little country school, a co-ed high school. We were starting to get some traction. Older brothers in the first 15s were starting to play some of the traditional rugby schools and either winning or getting pretty close. So that's when, looking at them going, how awesome is it that these guys are playing for Hurricane schools or making men or twos, and some of them are making New
Mm.
Zealand schools. And it wasn't until I was probably fifth form, sixth form, I overheard one of the teachers talking about me, whether he knew I was listening or not. Like, I was just going the other way at school, and he said that I'd be an All Black. And it just stopped me in my tracks. And I remember thinking, like, this guy has just said it, hey, he's going to be an All Black, but he also said he's going to play a heap of test matches. And at this stage, I'm thinking, mate, if I could play for Manawatu, which is my home province, like, I'll be pumped. Like, that's
Yeah.
better than I ever thought I'd ever do. But that always just stuck with me. And it was almost just like that little bit of belief I needed to hear, because he didn't know I was listening, but it was just that little moment to go, if he's thinking that, maybe I can, maybe there
Mm.
is a possibility, maybe there is a chance. And it was pretty cool. After I played my first test, my first year in the All Blacks in 2010, I went back to school and I saw him and I brought it up with him. So it was pretty cool to be able to go back and say, hey, I remember what you said. And, it's starting to come true. I played a couple of tests in my first year, and um, I just remember like almost saying thank you, because that's what I needed. I needed someone to just back me and say, hey, look, this is a possibility. Don't cut yourself short and get out there and give it a crack.
Mate, how good's that? The power of belief, I guess.
Oh, and that's the thing. Like I say that to kids now,
Mm.
you can be anything you want. You can be, an All Black or a Black Fern, or if you want to be a doctor or whatever. Like, there's never cap yourself at this is
Mm.
as far as I'm going to go. And um, that's something that's, served me throughout my whole rugby career. Get to a certain level and someone goes, but there's more if you want there to be more.
Yeah.
And, that doesn't have to be your main driver, but it's always nice to have it in your head and go, hey, there is a chance to be better than what I am at the moment.
Yeah. You must have been pretty good, though, for him to even suggest you're going to be a All Black who's going to play a lot of games. And I remember meeting you at sort of under 19 camps. And while you were very, very good, I guess you weren't sort of the gun lock, were you? I mean, Chris Smith was given captaincy at lock and probably over top of you. And
Yeah,
just your competitive nature at the time was always something that really stood out.
yeah, I think that's the family upbringing. Like, we we never really put ourselves out there, but we'd always be watching. We'd always go home and train really hard, and fitness tests and things like that. Yeah, we'd give it everything we've got, but
Mm.
we never probably put ourselves out there um, as much as we could have. And I'm really proud of that. As brothers, we just got into our work, and that's probably the way we've played. Um, we haven't been too worried about the flashy stuff. If it helps us, helps the team, then that's kind of the role we've always played.
And when you made the New Zealand 19s, 20s, was that sort of the confidence where you thought, okay, this professional rugby gig is on track?
I was lucky enough to make New Zealand schools in sixth form,
Yeah. Oh, six.
and
Wow.
I remember kind of thinking, have they read out the wrong name? Um, and like Nasi Manu and I sat on the bench when we played Australia A, and we lost. And both Nasi and I didn't get on. We were both sixth formers. And then a week later, we played Aussie Schools, and both of us got named to start. And I'm like, same height as I am now. Maybe I'd love to say I was 100 clicks, but I'd probably be 95. Like, I was all,
Yeah.
pretty tall and scrawny, but used to wear these big shoulder pads to try and make me look bigger, but didn't help at all. Just always take my socks up to make me try, look bigger in that. But that was probably one thing that the coach backed us in as young guys, and we're lucky enough to come away with the win. And I remember talking to Nasi afterwards, because Nasi come from obviously Christchurch Boys and the school that had produced so many great players and All
Mm.
Blacks and things like that. You're thinking, mate, he's going to kick on and have an awesome career. But it was myself that was the moment going, man, I've just played against the best guys in Aussie, and played 80 minutes and loved every moment of it, and found it very, very hard and challenging. So that was kind of the moment. If I wanted to do this, I knew I had to get better. I knew I had to get stronger and more skillful. And So that was a big moment for myself at a pretty young age.
Yeah, and you mentioned your training and how hard you sort of worked in the background. Was what sort of training did that look like? I can't imagine it being you being a big gym lifter back in the day out there on the farm.
Nah, not at all. So my high school was pretty much like the last couple of years at school. So Monday night was prefect duty. Tuesday was rugby training. Wednesday was basketball. Thursday was rugby. Friday was basketball game. Saturday was rugby game. Sunday was either rep basketball or rep rugby. So I was just working hard, having fun. And I
Yeah,
didn't know that it was working hard. I was pretty uncoordinated in Gumby and basketball, so I'll get it out there pretty early. I think I won most improved 3 years in a row. So my first layup, I'll get this off my chest so none of my schoolmates throw me under the bus, but gone up, tried to do a right hand layup, like finger roll off the backboard, nice and smooth, and it's come off the backboard. The ball's pretty much landed on halfway, so wasn't too hard to get most improved first couple of years, but that's where it kicked off for me because I just started to grow, and
yeah,
because I'd grown heaps, was pretty uncoordinated, and that's where rugby, the way I play basketball, the way I play rugby now, pretty much comes from all that time playing basketball. Catch the ball above your head. A lot of the line out stuff is actually basketball tricks of the trade around rebounding and things like that. So that's one thing that I know for myself. The more I enjoyed basketball, the more I played, then the better my rugby got.
mm.
And there's no way I would have been the rugby player I have been without basketball. And absolutely loved the game, loved playing it, but a little bit heavy now to get up there. Yeah, would love to lose 20 odd kgs and get back on the basketball court, but be interesting to see what happens once those rugby boots do get thrown in the bin.
Yeah, might get some basketball shoes back on playing national basketball in the National Basketball League.
Be more half court, not so much running.
But you hear it a lot on here around guys playing multiple sports and how much it helps their rugby or helps whatever sport they've chosen. But that key to, as a young guy coming through, just play as many sports as you can. Just they all cross over and they all help each other.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. It's give everything a crack, and I can't remember what World Cup it was, whether it was 11 or 15, but we went through the current group, and there were so many guys that represented New Zealand at an age group level. So, like you think of Kieran Reid, like rugby and cricket. Andy Ellis was the same. Victor Vito, I think he played volley and sevens and rugby. And then there was all these guys that were never made to specialise too young. They just gave everything a crack, and then you could actually see it in the way they played. They had a point of difference, and that's something that I think potentially can be concerning now because people are like, oh, you need to pick what sport early, and you got to go, well, actually make it work, go out there and give it a crack and learn what ball hand eye coordination, all those things. Especially for myself, I was pretty Gumby, and I don't think I would catch many kickoffs if I didn't play basketball.
Yeah. So then when you finally make Canterbury, which all happened pretty quick from what you've called yourself as a lean Gumby sort of player to then be walking into the Canterbury sheds with some legends of the game. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was daunting, man. Going from within a couple of years, watching these guys play awesome style of rugby to then all of a sudden, hey, these guys are in the huddle and you're playing with them or you're training with them, and guys that you knew so much about, but they didn't know who you were. You probably didn't even know my name, all those things. So I just tried to keep my head down and worry about myself and not annoy them or anything like that. So it was just worry about myself and hopefully let my play do all the talking, and didn't really say too much. If someone asked me a question, I'd be pretty short with my reply. But that was actually the best thing because I didn't worry about anything else. I was just worried about how I was playing, and I knew if I just went out there and gave it all, then that's all I could really ask.
Were your brothers in Canterbury at the time when you made it?
Yeah, so um, my first official game for Canterbury was against Wellington at the old QE2 Park.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure why it was a pre-season game, but it was a first class game. I don't know. I think they named 23, so there's some rule that they did it. But my Canterbury number was actually before George and Adam,
Oh, true.
and only because there was a couple of injuries. I just come back from under 20s, and Isaac Ross and I think it was Michael Patterson had concussion from the previous preseason or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I was like the last guy left. The only one in the academy. They're like, "Hey, you got to play," and that was kind of my introduction to Canterbury rugby. We lost, so I remember being gutted about that, but that's just how it started. I got an opportunity through some guys being injured, and um, that's what it was. I think I played one more after that, and then didn't play any more that season. So it was actually nice. Kind of got a little taster of where I needed to get to, and then was looked after through the Canterbury environment to say, "Hey, look, come and train," but at the same time, just you don't have to front here and play these guys that are heaps bigger than me. At this stage, I'd probably be about 102 kgs, maybe.
Yeah.
I was wearing 2 pairs of shoulder pads by the end to make myself look bigger again. It wasn't really working, but it's just I was trying everything to fool people.
How did you put on the weight?
Um, so yeah, every conversation I had with the coach, with the trainers, it was like, right, you just got to have protein parties after every single gym session, and we had a couple of awesome trainers at Canterbury in the academy at that stage, and you finish a gym session and you go around the corner and there'd just be a blender and you just pretty much like OD on protein.
Yeah.
Um, and we're just doing everything to get bigger and stronger. But um, for myself, I just had to keep eating, and it didn't really change till I was about 28, 29. And then I was still doing the same, jumping on the scales one off season, and went, oh, okay, I've got to stop this because I'm far too heavy. But it's lucky it was Christmas pudding. I got that done and then had a month to kind of lose a couple of kg.
Yeah. And it all happened pretty quickly for you too, even going into the Crusaders. I think it was, 2010, your Crusaders debut, round one versus the Highlanders, straight in there, ready to go.
Yeah, I had some awesome people there to help me out. So I was like the fifth lock or sixth lock, and I trained with the team the year before on what used to be called the apprentice
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
So worked pretty hard at that, and it was awesome. I just no responsibility, rock up to training, give everything a go, and then the next year you was in the full squad and got an opportunity through injuries. I think Chris Jack had just had surgery, and I think Thorny was out for a bit or something. So it was yet again, hey, look, there's no one else. You got to get out there and play. But loved it. Got out, got stuck in. Awesome as well because I've got brothers on the scene. So any questions or you're a bit worried about something, you kind of just sidle up to them and
Yeah.
get a bit of advice. And they did it in a nice enough way to help you out, rather than throwing you under the bus that sometimes they used to do. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Did any of those locks take you under your wing? Obviously, you mentioned Brad Thorne. You had Chris Jack. I think Ross Filippo, Isaac Ross. Few of those guys all in the camp.
Yeah, I had pretty much the ideal introduction to professional sport. I had all these guys that they pretty much had a strength that was all different to each other. So
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I me having two older brothers kind of just sat back and I was like, right, if I could be like him and be like that, and be like that, be like that, and I just kind of like went around the room and I'd say, look at them and go, if I could just take all their strengths and hopefully none of their weaknesses. This is me like plotting by myself, not thinking about it, and the guys were awesome, and it was some really established All Blacks in the side at that time, but they were really helpful for me, and they allowed me to make a few mistakes, but they made sure I didn't make any big mistakes, and they just helped me along the way. And I pretty much just tried to say nothing and watch what they did, and tried to just copy. And Thorny was massive for me. He really set me up to be successful. Hopefully, I've done the same as what he did for me to some of the young guys that are coming through now, because he opened up. He was getting towards the end of his career, and he just said to me, "What do you want to know?" And it was awesome playing alongside him. Learned so much off him, and still catch up with him now whenever we can. And got to see his kids grow up. So I'd go around there, and he'd there's four of them. You just like attack them, and the next thing these kids are all over me, and I'm trying to like. He's like, they're tough kids, and you're like, okay, so it's no, it's just awesome, and these guys that you used to watch on TV, all of a sudden they're your mates, and
Yeah.
no different to anyone that gets into those teams and environments. But I had an awesome lead in and got looked after really well from the coaches and that, so they exposed me, but they didn't throw me under the bus. Playing the big South Africans, they're like, oh, we'll put you on the bench this week. And you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. And rather than saying, hey, get out there and play 80 and get beaten up. But
Yeah.
so I had a pretty awesome introduction. But the whole time, I was still that skinny kid, a bit of a dude that was a bit long, yet again, trying to make myself look bigger. So, yeah, kind of just the whole first couple of years of my career, it was, hey, more weights, more protein, just smash food and smash tucker, and kept it pretty simple. Just when I got out, I tried to go hard, and just tried to back my instinct of the rugby upbringing that we'd had at home.
Yeah, well, you must have done that because for a skinny kid, yeah, you're straight in the All Blacks that same year, aren't you?
Yeah, yet again, like for a while there, I thought like I must have cursed everyone else because Ali just snapped his Achilles again. And then it got called. I actually missed the selection for the initial squad, but got a phone call an hour or two later saying, hey, come up and look after some of the guys because Tom Donnelly had a broken foot. So yet again, there weren't many people left, and I was the next kind of one there. So they're like, come up for a couple of days, and 3 weeks later, I played 3 test matches, and then was named in the full rugby championship squad. And it just happened so fast. And like looking back now, was I ready? Probably not. Definitely wasn't ready. Like body wasn't ready. Was backing myself to play, but at the same time, I was absolutely decking myself. So it just one of those things. It was probably the best thing because it happened so fast. I didn't have time to stop and think. So yeah, it was one of those amazing things that happen, and can't complain about my first one either.
Yeah, mate, I was going to say, how can you say you weren't ready? Like one of the greatest debuts off the bench ever, 2 tries for a lock in about 35 minutes. It was an incredible display.
Oh, I said something after the game, and I wish I never said it now because got interviewed, and it's still pretty green around what you're saying there. And as my career went on, keep getting told by the coaches, say nothing, give them nothing. So I probably just shut up shop and give media anything. But after that first one, I said to the media, I scored two on debut, like how awesome. Like if I never score another one, I'm happy. And then she dried right up after that, eh? So the first one, I think I scored my first one. It was the first thing I did. Had to catch the ball from Pity, a little inside ball. He's relaxed as giving a no look, and I've just got to catch the ball and fall over and score. So, as kids, we dreamed about it, and it pretty much happened that way.
How did you feel after that game? Did you feel like you sort of belonged in the group after a good performance like that on debut?
Yes and no. Like, yeah, you're an All Black now, but at the same time, you kind of, or I felt like I wasn't really an All Black yet because I hadn't consistently done it, and everyone talks around, when it was their moment that they actually felt really comfortable in the environment. Some guys never feel it, and it's actually really hard to hear after being in there so long. But everyone's different. But for me, I didn't really feel settled for the first couple of years. Like, yeah, I was happy enough, and everyone was really welcoming and things like that. But even right up until my last test, I'd be double checking the day sheet 100 times because you just go, okay, I can't be late to these meetings. And even though you know the time, you're still getting your phone out and going, okay, meeting's at 3, and you're just always on edge. But it's something I probably learned to accept a bit more and realize, okay, you've got to be on when you're on, and when you're off, actually stop and try to get away from rugby as much as you can.
Yeah. And then the following year, 2011, huge year for, I guess, New Zealand, the Rugby World Cup, an opportunity for you to go to the home Rugby World Cup here in New Zealand. But I guess before that, with the Crusaders season, was probably a really tough one for you with the earthquake and the travel and that whole season in itself. So how was that, and how was that whole sort of earthquake? I know Christchurch was your home at the time, so how was that to deal with?
Yeah, 2011 wasn't the best year for myself, so I kind of got a bit of the second year syndrome, as most of the rugby players know. Probably listened to the trainers too much around putting on weight, so I was going to the gym as much as I could, eating everything, and then got back to from our break, had to do a fitness test by myself because for whatever reason, and I was no good. I was heavy, and that's what they wanted, but I was definitely unfit, and this is how bad it was. So I finished the yo-yo, and I don't even remember what I got. I think it was under 16, maybe
Oh
16,
wow!
just like it was pretty bad.
And Sam Whitelock.
Yeah, so like I literally listened to what they said. I didn't trust myself and go, okay, I need to be fit here. But I put on the weight that they wanted. But as soon as the fitness test finished, the trainer goes, "Oh, I think you need to run a few laps right now." So it's not good after a fitness test being made to run laps straight away. So that was not a good sign for the start of that year. But besides that, personally, obviously the earthquake happened, and I still remember it happening. I was at Rugby Park, and anyone that knows Rugby Park, it's a concrete bunker. So I've run straight out. I've actually beat everyone out, and all the boys have come out, and we're kind of just joking around because it's the same as the other one. And then some of the guys got messages saying that, okay, this is not good. These buildings have collapsed, and people would have been hurt, and straight away it changed um, our attitude because we were just kind of in that same mode of, oh, yeah, everything's going to be fine. And it changed the team, it changed the city and the region forever. So we had a very tough year. I finally got fit after a few weeks. We played in Twickenham to, I think we travelled 3 times the amount that any other super team did, but went to Twickenham for a game. But I pretty much not quite made my toes touch my shin. Had to have ankle surgery and a few things, so that put me under a massive amount of pressure to get back for the Crusaders, play well enough to get selected because I was still a player on the cusp. I wasn't a guarantee or anything like that. So was unfit when I showed up. Started to get good form, got injured, so it was a pretty frustrating year. The team was travelling. I was at home doing a whole lot of rehab. The city's still shaking. Obviously, the emotion of that, the whole city's on edge the whole time. But the best thing was the senior players took over and said, "Hey, look, the best thing we can do, guys, is not worry about the earthquakes. Just go out there and play great rugby and give our fans and our people and our city and our region a chance to forget about what they're going through." And we played some awesome footy that year, but didn't quite get across the line. And um, definitely a year I learned a lot, and it definitely helped me going forward with some of the other things that happened in Christchurch. But then also for myself personally, allowed me to look at it and go, okay, yes, listen to the trainer, but at the same time, what they expect, I've got to do more because I can't show up unfit. You can't give someone an opportunity to play 3 or 4 weeks because you're overweight or not where you need to be.
And I guess when you were finally named in the Rugby World Cup squad, how are you feeling then?
I was a kid, so I think I was the youngest in the side, and every media interview I went to, I think I must have been 22, 23, and it was 24 years since we'd hold the World Cup. So every opening question I got was, you haven't been alive since you won the World Cup, and it actually turned into a bit of a joke, but no one really wanted to talk to me, which was good. I was happy with that. Being the young one on the team, I was just keeping my head down and just getting stuck in, as I said, in that first year, and learned a lot from Super Rugby and the challenges that had come from it. Trying to get better when I was not playing, when I was injured, and love just getting out there and the whole World Cup. Like I didn't know what to expect, and playing at home was awesome. The support um, definitely helped us as a team, but at the same time, it made things challenging because you couldn't walk down the street, you couldn't do anything. It was just rugby mad, as New Zealand always is.
Did you feel that pressure? I know a lot of guys really felt like the pressure of the whole sort of nation on them. Did you feel that as a new guy and what it meant to sort of the whole country?
Yes, yeah. I remember getting up in '95 and watching the All Blacks final against South Africa and the drop goals. So I remembered all that. And for me, I was pretty much just a fan. But I had the privilege of been able to do something about it. So training hard, and then when it came to game time, yeah, I was getting pretty nervous a couple of those games, those big games. But when you're actually out there, you can do something about it. So you can get stuck in, or get up off the ground a little bit faster, or make your tackles, or whatever it is. But I found when I came off in the semi final and in the final, that's when it really hit me, because all of a sudden I was just like everyone else in New Zealand. I was a spectator, I was a supporter, and you can yell and scream and dance, but the reality is, in those games, the players can't hear you. There was so much noise, and the spooky thing in the final, it was so quiet. All the Kiwi supporters just went quiet. So I kind of had the whole experience. I had the experience of being relaxed and playing, but then I also had the experience of being a supporter and going, "Come on, boys, let me get this job done." When it was
Yeah.
so tight.
How have you managed to, how do you keep relaxed in such a high pressure moment? I guess it's something you've done so well in your whole career, is handled the pressure moments, the biggest games. You've always played really well. How do you do that?
I'd love to say I played really well in those biggest games. I go back to 2011 to a point in the super final. I was calling the line out, and I think we lost 5 out of 6 in the first half, and I didn't handle the pressure. So that was one thing that I said, like, that was a big thing I learned from, was the mental space around how do you reset, adjust, how do you actually see something so clearly. So we had a plan of having 5-man lineouts. They defended it with 6, and it wasn't until half time when Chris Jack goes, "Hey, there's 6 in the lineout." It was right there. Couldn't see it, but he could see it just being a little bit further away. So things like that, pick up a few tricks, a few little things that help you along the way. And that was a big moment for myself. I used to get really nervous when I was younger, and used to hurt myself, probably because I would be so excited and I'd fly into something and collect the boot in the face and get cut, or tackle the ground, or,
Yeah.
like I said, I was pretty Gumby. So I actually learnt just to probably relax a little bit, and it definitely helped me going through the rest of my career of just taking the time. And when you see an opportunity, then probably commit to it and get stuck in.
Yeah, mate. Sounds easier than it is. And I guess like the other part of your game, which has been so, I guess, admirable from a distance, is the consistency of it. Like how consistent you are every single week, 350 games, and like your performance never really dips.
Yeah, it's something that I think when I was younger, I was probably a little bit up and down, didn't have that consistency and couldn't work out why. I think the one thing I used to keep going back to is just do your job. And I know that sounds so simple, but the position I play as a lock, you know, you can go out there and make a big break and score a try and all those things, but if you're not doing your core roles first, it doesn't matter. And that's something that I always probably looked at, is if I can nail my core roles first, then anything that comes after that, that's a bonus. And um, at times that probably meant I didn't play the way I could have. And I think the early part of my career, I was probably a little bit more expansive and running the ball a little bit more. But towards the end, I was probably asked to play a different style to what was probably natural to me. And as my body changed and all those things. So that was probably the big thing, is just keeping it really simple and going, okay, what do I have to do here? And go and do that job as well as you can, rather than getting worried about what you could have done, or getting worried about the mistake you've made. Just what's the next thing, what's the next moment, and go and win that one.
Mate, you make the game sound so simple.
Well, I think that's
That's it.
the one thing. Like, people, when I was younger, used to say I overthought the game, and I probably
Yeah.
did like to work out what was going and try to do everything perfect. But it's not. And I think sometimes the best games you play is when you're actually just enjoying what you're doing. And I think the best games I've played, you're almost in that state where you're just having fun and you just got a smile on your face and you're enjoying it. Yeah, you've got to be physical at times, so there might be that little bit of competitive edge. You see a rib there, and you might be trying to smack it or whatever. So yeah, I think it's actually keeping it simple, because under pressure, if you're trying to do something that's pretty complicated, it doesn't work. You might get away with it for a little bit, but keeping it nice and simple is how I've found it. And seemed to have worked for me, but for other people, it might be something different.
Yeah, because like I'm just thinking around. I've never really seen you that rattled on a field. Like I know a lot of people try and get into push and shove or try and wind you up. I've seen Dane Coles get at you a fair few times, but you never seem to buy into any of that stuff. You always sort of just put your hands up and walk away and stick to rugby.
Oh yeah, there's a few good stories with Colsey. I know you had him on not so long ago, and you're winding him and Guz up. But Colsey he's so easy, eh? Like we've known each other since he played with my older brothers at Hurricane schools and played against them and that. So I've known him for a very long time. We're good mates and stuff. But I used to always love winding Colsey up, and sometimes it'd take you 3 games to get him. So the first 2 games, you go up to him before the game, shake his hand, give him a big cut, hey, Colsey, like you best mates. And the next game, which is the most important game, whether it's a knockout game, you walk up to him as if you're going to shake his hand and you walk away. And then he's giving you a lip before they kick off, and already you've kind of got him where you want him. But obviously you tell him a few of these things, and then you're double bluffing each other. But had some awesome verbals from him and stuff. But yeah, it's all part of the game. Like that competitive edge comes out of people. Some people love yarning. Some people don't say anything back.
Yeah.
Some people just smile. But I think it's probably part of the game that when I first started was definitely a little bit more full on. I think there's a few things that probably got missed from the TMO and I'd punch and that got thrown. But now, like, people are pretty good at reading lips and things like that. So you got to be pretty careful what you say and how you do it. But yeah, it's part of the game, and I never really search for it. But if someone comes and says something, I might have a wee chirp back, but nothing too major.
Yeah, so you're chirping, but you're just not doing anything physical because you're never in those push and shoves. You're never collar grabbing and throwing those little jabs around the chin.
No, if it's one good story. Luke Romano loves his cards. Anyone that knows Cobus loves playing 500, Euchre, Jim Rummy, and there was a bit of a push one day between I can't remember if it's us and the Blues, and Romano's awesome at Jim Rummy. Like when he used to stand up and he'd just be cards going everywhere. He's probably cheating, but it was happening so fast no one knew. And there's all this push and shove, and then Ma'anonu's run in and grabbed him, and he's just like, Jim Rummy in his ear, and it's amazing what humour can do. Like it just takes away all that anger and aggression, and half the guys are in there cracking up, pretending to play cards, and some of the guys are all pushing each other, and it's just there's all those little games that go on, and we're all good mates, and sometimes it looks like we're having a go at each other, but we're actually just winding each other up with a bit of humour. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, how good! And I guess the other part of your assets is I see that when you're retired, all the comments that people write about you is the leadership that you possessed. And I've heard you talk about leadership before around what you said before around nailing your role. And that's probably the biggest skill in it. But there's so much to your leadership, which is, pretty incredible to watch from what I've seen over the last few years and especially last year, getting to witness it firsthand. But what do you think the key to your leadership was?
Mate, you've put the answer in the question. Like I know that it sounds quite boring, and everyone's like, "Oh, what's the golden ticket? What's the big thing?" But I think that's what it is. If I'm out there missing tackles, and then I'm trying to say to people, "Hey, we need to sort our defence out," it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I know when a leadership group's working really well, you've got guys that are really sticking to their strengths and nailing it. And sometimes, like I've missed a tackle, they've scored. It's good when the other leaders know, okay, he's not going to talk in this huddle because he's got to sort his own stuff out. He's got to reset himself and work out what's going on. And they step into that space and really nail the message. And I think the other times that I've really liked it from other people, they've turned around and said, hey, look, we're doing good, but I'm just going to make that tackle and we're all fine. So sometimes it's actually just being honest with yourself and honest with the team and saying, look, we're doing really well. Or that intercept try, whatever it was, it's something, completely run against the play. So just keep doing what you're doing. But I really like the human interaction. I really like how people, walk into a room and like the little test, there's 10 people in a room, there's only 9 chairs. What happens? Does someone stand up? Do you make the person sit on the floor? And it's probably come from having 2 older brothers,
Yeah.
One of the best games we used to have, Luke and I would sit there. George is off at boarding school, and Adam would be sitting there, and we'd just wind him up. And we knew, like, he was bigger than us, stronger than us, faster than us. So he couldn't chase both of us. So we'd be on either side and we'd just be annoying him. And we'd do this to all of us, our mates and stuff. We used to love winding up crots too. But we'd just get him to a stage that you knew if you said one more word or you touch him, he was going to chase you and it was going to be carnage. So I kind of enjoyed reading body language and going, okay, there's something up with this guy over here. Go and have a yarn or go and check in and work out what's going on. So I used to always love sitting at the back of the room, especially in team meetings, because I could see what was happening in the room. I could see how the coach is presenting, which players, when there's a question asked, put their head down because they don't know, they haven't done their homework. So you can kind of circle back around and be like, how you getting on? How can I help you? Or you can actually square them up if they need it. So really enjoyed that side of it. And that's something that I think I probably got better at trusting myself as my career went on. At the start, I was got the front. I just wanted to know all my detail, didn't want a bar of anything else. I just knew I had to nail my role. But as I started doing that, then other things opened up. And I think that's where some people potentially get lost as they try nail everything else rather than their own role. So, like I said, you kind of gave the answer at the start.
Mate, but you've given a much better one. That's so cool to hear the detail and where you sit and what you're looking for and how you approach people who you feel like might be not up to speed. Those little things. I remember Tim Bateman talking about your sort of emotional intelligence and how powerful of a tool that is. And I'm guessing that comes from, like you mentioned, your brothers and that relationship, just to get to feel what people are feeling and then know when it's too far, know when they need a cuddle, know when they need a hard word. So
Yeah, like it's pretty cool hearing you say that as a coach, because I think that's 90% of coaching. If you can pick where a person is sitting, and everyone needs a thing at different stage. So for me, if it was too comfy, I'd probably get a little bit, loose around the edges, and every now and again need a little square up. And sometimes a one or two word or a little whisper in the ear was enough. Other times it was in front of the whole group, and that would motivate me to prove you wrong and things like that. Like, I'm a pretty strong-minded person. I won't say stubborn, but you can work that one out, as you know me pretty well. So that's the thing that I think is really hard to do. And you know when you nail it, but you also know when you don't. And you see it all the time when it goes the wrong way. You go, oh, he's having a shocker this week, but it normally comes from a comment earlier, and sometimes a throwaway comment can be the worst thing for someone.
yeah. And you mentioned the leadership group, and like when one leader's made a mistake, the other leader sort of stands up. And I think that's one sort of strength that I've seen around your game is you haven't always been captain, but you've still been a massive leader, or vice versa. Like when you have been captain, you've had Kieran Reid in behind, or it's the whole sort of group. How was it sort of captaining the Crusaders with Kieran Reid in the side? I think who was All Black captain at the time?
Oh, like it's definitely a group thing. And whenever I've been captain or not captain, it just means you've got to change your style to a point. But for me, I always found it easier to be captain because I could be
Yeah.
myself. But that was never always what it was. So sometimes you're asked to be captain one week and next week you're not. And you've got to manipulate how you are talking to the group. And um, if you know those guys pretty well, sometimes it's just a little head nod or the wink it, and okay, yeah, I'll come in here, or you can see they're playing really well and they've got momentum, and the message from them will be more powerful than myself. And had heaps of talks with different people, and I think I was named captain of the Crusaders at a really good time for me. I'd been in the team for a while. I'd played quite a few games, hadn't been successful, hadn't won anything, but it was nice to challenge myself, and it was something that I was ready for, and really took that on and wanted to be myself, but also wanted to help other people out, because I think that's one thing that's definitely come through with the brothers. It's probably one thing that um, we do like, and we do get a big kick out of it, is actually helping people. So when you get someone that normally doesn't say anything in a team meeting, and you can see them grow because they're actually getting confidence, and then you see their game improving, you do get a big kick out of it. So it's one thing that Robbie Deans used to always say to me is embrace the silence. So ask a question and just know that you're not going to answer it and just see who
Yeah.
answers it. And used to love pulling out a few of those old tricks, especially early on in a campaign. Um, used to have a few little spies in there when all the All Blacks were away, and who was saying what, who was actually leading. Because then when you step back into that environment, you'd go up to those guys and be like, hey, look, these guys are back, but I still need you to lead. I still need you to advance yourself because everyone always finds that little comfy spot of, okay, they're going to take the lead and I don't have to drive
Yeah.
this. And at times it's actually saying to them, look, you've been leading. We just need you to carry on, or we need a little bit more. And really enjoyed that side of it around how to develop people. And yet you have your key leadership group, your 5 or 6 guys that um, are operating really well. But I used to always like looking at the next group, the next 5, who are going to be the 5 there in 5 years' time. If you had a couple of injuries or those 5 guys are gone, who's going to take control? So how do you actually set up the next generation? And I think that's where I really enjoyed when I was first captain. I was actually planning to not be captain as soon as I got the job, and around how I could develop the next guys. And um, it actually put more pressure on myself to be a better leader and pass on some of the stuff that people had taught me and things I'd seen. So I really enjoyed that and still enjoy that now. So hopefully I can help out some people going forward once it is all done.
Yeah, is that where Scooter Barrett came into the skipper? Because obviously you were, I think, what, 3 from 3. You'd won 3 Super Rugby titles in a row as captain, and then Scott Barrett becomes the Crusader captain. You're still in the side, and how did that work?
So we went to Japan. So
Oh, okay.
this is just before COVID. So we went to Japan, and man, it was different watching the Crusaders play. And had such a heavy involvement, 3 years being skipper and leading, and like we had an awesome team, and it was just the right moment for Hannah and myself to actually just stop and go, right, we need to actually get off the Ferris wheel here a little bit. But the main thing is I wanted to get better. I wanted to go to Panasonic and challenge myself in a different environment. Robbie was there as a head coach. I'd never had him as a head coach, and he was always someone that everyone in Canterbury and the Crusaders and that area talked around how good he was. So I wanted to go and improve myself, and that's kind of one of the reasons I went. So got over there. COVID happened, so then I ended up coming back and playing Super Rugby as well. So kind of got to experience it quickly, but then didn't miss too much Super Rugby. So I think I missed 5 or 6 games of Super Rugby, and
Yeah.
then that comp stopped, and then had lockdown, and then by then I was back in New Zealand playing. So um, yeah, can't complain too much. On a
Yeah.
personal note, didn't miss too much, and the boys didn't have too much fun without me.
Yeah, but you obviously lost the leadership role, and how was that? Like, were you happy around that, or building up Scott to become a captain?
Yeah, it's something that we've been doing. We had all like the senior guys, so we had like the White Crockett's, Ritos, Matt Todd's, Crotts.
Yeah.
They were all there leading really well. But the next group of guys, so the Scooter was one that we identified, and we actually tried to keep him out of the leadership group just to let him settle into his core roles. But then we had guys like David Havili, Richie Mwanga, all these guys, the Brent Halls, Mitch Drummonds, guys that were actually the provincial captains. So I think Davey was Tasman, Drummo had been a little bit for Canterbury off and on. I think Brent was North Harbour a little bit. So we had these young guys that were like, okay, we can't just suppress them. We need to actually develop them. And it was just the next stage in it. But because I was going to Japan, it was time for me to have a new challenge. And not being captain was actually the big challenge. And yet again, Scooter was ready for that next part. It was very similar to where I was 3 years before. And yeah.
Interesting, eh? So hearing you talk, you're such a big picture guy, eh? For compared to a lot of players I talk to who are, so focused on, just their own journey. You're like looking at the whole picture, the whole team, how you can improve everyone, and mate, you're going to be some coach or CEO or whatever you
No.
choose if you're not a farmer.
Yeah. Oh, like I think it probably that mentality kind of changed as I kind of went through it.
Yeah,
So my first 7 or 8 years or whatever it was, we never won with the Crusaders. And the harder I tried, I always looked at myself, how can I be better? How can I be better? But actually learned pretty quickly, you can't do it by yourself. It actually takes the whole group to get to a certain level, and then you need everyone to advance again. And yeah, you got to be worrying about yourself and playing the best rugby and all that. But that's probably why I actually turned around and went, okay, how do I actually help people? And it was no different to what the senior players did to me at the start, because they knew they'd need me out there at some stage as the young guy, and that's what I needed from them in those years too. And mate, those guys those young guys have gone on being great captains, and they're still leading really well and playing some awesome rugby wherever they are in the world. And it's pretty cool to know that I've had a small part of their development, and hopefully I've helped them out more than I've put them on the wrong
Mate,
path.
you definitely have. And I remember I've heard often on this podcast how much you've helped a lot of guys, or you've been their first roomie, or how much advice you've sort of handed on to them throughout their career. So it's always pretty cool to hear that. But I guess out of all those games, 350 odd plus games, which ones stand out? Any games that really stand out you look back at and think, wow, that was my favourite?
Oh, I've been asked that heaps over the last week and a
I
half,
bet.
and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what game. Off the top of my mind, like a couple come to, like your first game, your last game, for obviously emotional reasons. But I really loved playing the Stormers for the Crusaders away from home. All four brothers started. It
Oh,
was the first
true.
time we ever did it.
Oh, that's cool.
And Ben Fennell was on the bench, and we had some ridiculous facial hair, but we had heaps of senior guys that were injured, and we were written off. The Stormers were playing some awesome rugby, and we just played this dogged game, just refused to go away. I think Toddy scored a great try under the sticks.
Yeah.
Tyler, what did Tyler do? Tyler kicked a whole lot of penalties and just kept us in touch. And we went and beat this team that everyone had written us off. But the cool thing was the performance. But it was actually the family feel. So I remember Granddad just being so excited. He was like four boys, and then obviously Ben being the cousin out there as well. So Granddad was pumped, and it was just the way we played. There's nothing better than being written off and going out there and just proving people wrong.
Yeah.
Yet again, could be that stubborn person. So that might be where if someone wants me to do something, say I can't do it, and I'll be pretty dogged in proving you wrong.
Yeah. Man, that's so cool being out there with three other brothers and a cousin. Well, Jordan wasn't out there, obviously, but mate, how good,
No.
like, it has real family. Like, people talk about playing with, like, your team's your family, but your team literally was your family.
And that's the cool thing about it is we got an opportunity to all play. I think it was 3 or 4 years, and I think we all played and started a couple of times. But um, the other games that I remember the most, because that was just the childhood. We used to talk about, how awesome would it be if we ever did this, and then it
Yeah.
was running out at one of the awesome or the best grounds you play at. It was loud, written off, and you come away with an awesome performance. And yeah, that's one game that definitely sticks to my head. But um, like honestly, I don't know, and I think as I finished playing, like so, I've still got a bit to go. But once I actually stop and look back at it and have some time to reflect, I'll be able to answer that question a bit better. But there's some amazing moments, there's amazing games, but there's also games that you probably remember the games you lost. Was it my fault, or
Yeah.
you miss that tackle and they score, and is that the game and you come back and win? So there's moments within games and you kind of get stuck on them a little bit. But no, it's had some awesome highlights, and hopefully more up and downs.
Mate, have you what? You've won almost everything. And you mentioned that you'll look back at it once you've sort of finished, but how do you sort of reflect on your career so far? I know you've got a bit more to go this year, and I'm guessing a couple more after once you bring a couple of pairs
Yeah,
of boots back home. But how do you sort of look back on your career?
mate, you're setting me up with saying that, eh? No, I think, oh yeah, it was actually Snakey said it to me one day. Conrad Smith, he goes, "As rugby players, we're shockers," and I was like, "What do you mean?" Like Snakey always had awesome advice, smart man.
Yeah.
I know you had a massive respect for Snake. he goes, look, we never stop and enjoy, and whether we're touring, whether we have a good win or not, we're always right. Next week we're doing this recovery, and we just have that moment. We're straight into the next one, and I think I'm very guilty of that. I probably haven't stopped and enjoyed some of those moments because normally you play a big game, the next one's just as big, if not bigger. Um, and I'd like to say that every game I've played, I've prepared the same way. I've never really skimped on something. I've always tried to put my best performance out there. Harder done than said, but um, I think that's going to be the thing is actually stopping and looking back at it. It's funny when you see the odd game highlights somewhere and you look back and you're like, oh, that's right, that game, and oh, that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
I remember one test match, we were in Auckland. I don't remember what year it was, but there was a couple of games being played, the highlights from a couple of years before. And Liam Messam and I were standing there looking, and we were actually a little bit late to get changed because we were just enjoying the game. And man, we were playing some awesome rugby, and it was actually quite cool because you forget some of the detail, but you see that on a big screen, and you actually start living the moment again. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, that's right, we did that move, and that worked. And so I think there'll be time that when it all does finish, I'll look back at some of those things, and you can be proud of what we've achieved as players and as teams, and yeah, done some pretty cool things on the field.
Mate, have you what? So many games too. Like, no wonder you can't remember too many real standouts because there's just so many to choose from. But we have gone to our Instagram for some questions, so we're going to fire through a few of these because we've got plenty. Everyone
As
wants
long
to
as
know.
Israel Dag has been banned, I'm happy.
Okay, Israel Dag is banned. I'm not sure what he sent in, but okay. First one
Yeah.
is, who has been your favourite locking partner?
Oh,
So many.
very, 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 very hard question.
Yeah.
I'd like to think everyone that I've played with have made them a better player, but like Thorny was awesome when I first started. So he was the brawn, I was the skinny dude that got thrown up in the line out. So perfect timing. Obviously, Guz and I have played whatever games together.
Yeah.
Probably don't like playing each other too much. He broke a few fingers of mine for a while and ripped his top off on one day. So we're both young and dumb, trying to kill each other. So um, played so much with him. Scoot played heaps with him as well at the Crusaders.
Yeah.
Romano's the same. So they'll be the top guys off the top of my head. But there's guys that you line up. Like used to love watching Ali play and get a chance to play with him. Chris Jack, like it's so hard to pinpoint one person, but the success Guz and I have had together would probably be at the top, and pretty cool to have a record together that hopefully doesn't get broken anytime soon.
Yeah, what is
But
it? A
yeah,
100 test matches together or something ridiculous
oh,
like that?
there's been some cool stuff coming out the last couple of weeks, but it was pretty awesome because like Guz and I know each other pretty well, but at the same time, we just kind of get on with our stuff, and we're very different people. Guz in his book will write maybe three things down the whole week, where I'll probably write everything.
Yeah.
So we kind of know what works for us, and it's pretty cool. We get together and just get stuck in, and hopefully make some good play with me out there, and vice versa. So
Yeah. Well, both of you are so consistent, but also um, very good at avoiding injury. Like, I remember having him on, and he'd hardly had an injury in his whole career. And you're pretty similar as well to be able to get through that many games.
I'd hate to know the amount of strapping, like how many times around the world it would be, with ankles and fingers and wrists and line out tape. But uh, yeah, sometimes you just got to get out there and just take a few deep breaths, and the adrenaline takes over when it needs to. So
Yeah. Oh, mate, how good. Okay, next one. Talk us through the Reds try. Now, this one popped up the other day.
yeah,
Wow, how good.
yeah. Yet again, I think I said after if I don't score another one, I'll be happy. But no, it's so Benny Fennell caught the ball, and I've been doing heaps of work with Aaron Major at the time because I was so worried about my core role. I actually forgot about carrying the ball and just backing yourself and trying to beat a player. At that time everyone was told run square, and so I did heaps of work with him. But Ben caught the ball and he called for the inside ball, and I was like, don't want it
Yeah.
because there's a couple of guys there, and he's just throwing the ball, and I fought the ball, and then next thing I don't know, I just ended up in a bit of space, and been doing heaps of work with Azza, and like Azza was just saying, look, if you make a little break, just boot it, just put the hammer down, and then trust yourself to take over. Um, so I was saying this to Daggy the other day. Whatever happened, happened. I scored, and then people were jumping all over me, and I pretty much almost pulled my quad and Achilles at the same time. I didn't have a GPS on me, but I would love to know how fast to run because I reckon it's as fast as I've ever been. But I was absolute gas and got pulled straight after. So uh, I learned pretty quickly don't score a try like that because the coach takes you off. So yeah.
Well, easiest try assist for Ben Fennell in his history. Dodgy
Oh yeah,
inside
yeah,
ball.
yeah. One that wasn't on too. So
Yeah.
yeah. I think all the rest were pretty much like the old pick and go, half a metre if I'm lucky, get over the line that way. So yeah, it's good for the average metre carried anyway.
Is it? What a try. I'll have to bring that up. Okay, 2019, the hand of God. Was it a penalty?
Is this from TJ, is it?
This is from the whole Hurricanes community.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I've talked to TJ about this. I think TJ didn't believe me at the time, but I've said my bit. But I didn't actually know TJ was there, so I've like gone on to go over the ball, and I haven't seen him at all. And he's picked the ball up, and I've hit it out of his hands. So I'd love to say that it was all planned, and rolled the dice and got away with it. So I didn't even know what was happening, and then after the game, I've seen the replay and I've gone, "Oh, that's not a good look." So I didn't even know it was there, and then someone come out of the media and said the hand of God, and then it's stuck, and it's like, oh, I don't want to hear that. So I'd love to say it was planned, but no, I was just trying to get over the ball, and yeah, TJ had the ball in his hands, and that was it.
Oh, that's interesting. I always thought it was just a little bit of craftsmanship from you in a big moment, just got away with one and
Oh
experience,
no,
took the risk, but no, you're just going for a jack. I didn't even know.
mate, you guys were pumping us, and I was under pressure. I was absolutely gassed. So try to win the ball back, and then yeah, that's what happens. So
Oh, how good's footy?
you don't
This is
believe me, I can tell. Eh? Yeah.
a
You're like liar.
liar. You knew what you were doing. Okay, I'm interested in this one. It's a half field of full contact 4v4. George, Adam, Luke, and Sam versus Bodie, Scott, Geordie, and Kane. Who is winning? Half field.
Oh, what full on scrap to the death, or
Full
we're playing
on
rugby?
rugby.
Oh well, Adam's probably the only one that can kick the ball where all those Barretts can kick it. So we're probably going to lose, and that we'll probably lose the territory. But
Lose by conversions.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it'd be a good one actually. I'd quite enjoy that, but I'd be a bit offended if I was Blake Barrett, not being selected.
He
I'd go,
hasn't made the cut. His
yeah,
concussed brother's ahead of him. Maybe Blake can swap in for Kane if Kane's not fit for
Kane's no good.
contact.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, it's I think the Barretts had pretty much the same upbringing as us. There's a few more of them than us, so they've got a full sevens team. But
yeah.
um, no, yeah, I'm just trying to think who would take who, what the matchups would be. But I think your listeners worked that one out. But I'd actually pay to watch it. It'd be quite good, quite
It
interesting.
would
But
be, mate. It would be a
they're
game.
still playing, or most of them are. Kane stop, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm sure no one would give up anyway.
Yeah. Pay per view, it would be a hell of a watch. I'm sure a lot of people would pay to watch it for sure. And I guess the thing around that is like, yeah, your parents. I mean, Smiley Barrett's. A lot of people call him like the most valuable stud or stallion in the game to be able to produce 4 All Blacks or 3 All Blacks, and who knows where Kane could have got to, but and Blake as well, obviously, but Braden Whitelock as well, right up there, producing 3 All Blacks, one New Zealand Sevens player, strike rate,
Yeah, not bad,
incredibly,
eh?
yeah.
Um, no, mum and dad always, get us just a little bit, and they, put their chests out, and they're pretty proud of the boys who've all had pretty amazing rugby careers. Obviously, with us all representing our awesome country we have. So, but mum with the horses and that at home, mum always teases dad, saying that all the breeding comes from the mare. The size there, it's never passed on through that. So they've got their normal jokes that they throw with that, but like I think it's just the opportunities that they gave us. They never pushed us down the rugby path, but they just supported us in whatever we wanted to do. And I know your parents and any parent out there, they always want their best for their kids, and if they're passionate around something, they normally help them out, and that's what our parents did, and also our grandparents and everyone else too. So we had amazing support, whether that was getting around us when we were a bit disappointed we missed out on a team, or getting around us and saying, hey, look, you're getting a bit ahead of yourself. You need to just remember where you come from, and keeping it nice and humble. And I think that's something that's definitely set us up to succeed, not only in sport, but also in life too.
Love it. Okay, next one. What food most commonly gets caught in your beard?
Now, I'm actually pretty lean on the
Yeah.
facial hair at the moment. I had a bit of a slug here for a while with the French flair, but the beard.
Where'd the beard come from? What started the beard?
Oh no,
Size? Was
just
it a size issue again?
yeah, probably just extra weight, and then in the later part of my career, get heavy, shave my hair, and get my beard off. But no, it was just probably being lazy. Like, I
Yeah.
hated shaving, so just never did it. Always used to love the Crusaders facial hair challenge, and you always want to get a flyer to it. Being backseat in that, oh yeah, boys, no shaving from now on. And you have a week's growth on it already to really kick it in. There's some shockers. I think Mad Todd was most improved over his career. The first year, I think he had about one on his chin, and by the end, he actually could grow something. But yeah, it was probably just being lazy.
Mm.
Couldn't be bothered shaving, but yeah, probably all the food kind of got caught in it for a while there, especially when you're trying to put some tucker down. But it's nothing worse than you haven't had any food for a couple of hours, and you're kind of, oh, what's that? And you're like, oh yeah, oh well, carry on and get into it.
It was a big part of your look, though, too, wasn't it? The beard. And then I guess when you would shave, everyone would notice and comment, and be one of those periods where it's like, who's this guy?
Yeah, yeah. I went. I'm getting a few greys now, so got to keep it pretty short.
Yeah, clean shaven. I'm
Yeah,
thinking the
but
same.
no, you're right, mate. Yeah, salt and pepper, you're all over it. So
Okay, next one. Who's the toughest player you played against? People love these ones. There's some tough
oh,
players out there.
I think for any player at the start of your career, everyone you play against is tough because you don't know the tricks of the trade. Like for myself, I had my first All Blacks year, I played Victor, Bucky's. They played so many games together. They suited each other's styles. So trying to steal the ball off Victor at line-out time, absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Bucky's would bash you. Then you got Nathan Sharp. In New Zealand, we still, if that move is done, everyone calls it a Sharpie. So like he changed the game. And then you go around and you look at all the other locks. So like my first start against England, Courtney Laws was there, so I had some awesome games against him. You pretty much go through the whole, every team you play against, and there's someone there that you go, okay, I've got to be on my best, the otherwise I'm going to get shown up. But I think the early part of your career is where you kind of learn your lessons, and if people say, oh no, it was sweet, they're kind of talking a bit of smack.
Yeah.
So probably playing against those guys, Victor and Bucky's, Super Rugby and International is the hardest because they knew each other so well and their styles suited each other.
Yeah, mate, what a combo they were. It goes on to the next one. Best up-and-coming lock in the game right now. Sam Whitelock's opinion.
Oh, there's so many out there, and there's guys out there that are not getting a look in at the moment. They're not getting academies aren't talking to them, and I just hope they don't give up the game because they're finding it hard at the moment. Just keep sticking at your work because someone will notice you. And it was pretty cool when Guz, Romano, and myself were there. Like both Guz and Lukey didn't get into the academy early. They were passed over from different reasons, and they kind of just never gave up. They were dogged in the way they approached the game, and they got there in the end and both had awesome careers and were super successful. So I think that's one thing that people forget. There's an up and comer, and sometimes you hear a name and they go, "Oh, yeah, this is the guy that is going to be really good," but it's the guy that doesn't get named comes out. But some really good young guys at the Crusaders at the moment that I've known pretty well. So like a young Jamie Hanna, he's a guy that has been playing really well so far, and he's got a bit of attitude about himself. get stuck into things. He's had a couple of injuries, so no different to what Scooter had when he first made Super Rugby. Had a shoulder surgery, and then you got someone like Zach, who's the same age. A year older. Different style of player again. So
Yeah.
there's some really good guys coming up, and I'm quite excited to see where they can take the game and what's expected from a lock. So there are two guys that the world's at their feet if they want it to be, and it's going to come down to a bit of luck, but B, more importantly, how they work and how they work in their game, the opportunities they get, because there's also some great guys out there that have had a bit of hardship. I think of Mitch Dunshea, played a lot of rugby with him at Canterbury and the Crusaders, and he just hasn't had any luck. Quinn Strange is probably another one. And I know I'm just talking about guys that I've played with and alongside, but it's easy to talk about them because I've seen what they're doing to be better. But the cool thing is there's guys out there that are going to challenge them, and that's the cool thing about playing Super Rugby and playing international rugby. You get to play against the up and comers or the guys that are already established, and you get to find out how good you're going to be.
Yeah, and I guess you can talk about those guys because they've also they've got the advantage of being mentored by the great Sam Whitelock too for 1 or 2 years, so they've got a huge advantage to kick on.
Mate, don't sell yourself short, mate. You're the coach. That's the point of difference.
Oh yeah, that's the real advantage for them. So, some of this line out stuff I'm giving them is absolute gold at the moment. So hopefully we'll see that kick on over the next few rounds. Okay, next one. What's the difference between a good All Black and a great one? You would have seen it a few. I know you room with a lot of them when they come through. What's the difference that you see?
What's the difference between a good All Black and a great All Black? I think it's that consistency. And I think of the guys that have played 100 test matches, not only for New Zealand, but for all their countries. They're consistent. And they're consistently getting better. They're consistently growing their game. And, if you look at any of the guys, the player they start at compared to the player they are at 100 test matches, they've got that strength they had then, the reason they got picked. But by the end of their career, they've got 2 or 3 different things that they've developed over those 100 test matches, and then all of a sudden they're kind of like the complete player. They don't really have any weaknesses. They've got all these strengths. There's things that they can improve, but they've just actually rounded themselves off and actually very hard to attack them because they're actually really good at everything. And that's what I think makes great All Blacks, but also great players, because they evolve as their career goes on. Rules change, and they've got to look at things differently and find a way to be really good at it.
So true. And Martin Ono is someone who sort of jumps out at me in that mould, where started off as just a sort of ball carrier, but then by the end of it, man, he didn't have any weaknesses in his game. He had all the skills and really grew and evolved as a player, and still going now.
Yeah, he's putting all of us to shame. So I'd hate to know how many first class games he's played, but yet again, you look at it and go, how many has he had, as a poor game? He's just got better and better and better. And that's almost the sad thing about it. You get to a stage where your mental space is probably your strength, where when you're younger, it's probably your athletic ability to just jump the fence and get stuck into it. And I remember doing it. And that's one thing that I know I got told is, you need to enjoy it because it goes so quick. And at the time I was like, it's just the old boys being grumpy, but it's actually great advice, and it's something that I hope I get across on this is enjoy it, because it can be over so quick, and it feels like I've blinked and my career's gone. It's still a bit to go, but it's happened so fast. So,
mate, so true, man. You've got some absolute wisdom. This is gold. Okay, 2 to go. What's your lambing percentage?
Don't know yet. The farm's infrastructure is not really good enough for breeding ewes yet, so we're just buying in lambs and fattening them. But in time, hopefully we get a number there, and yet again that Computer Future come out. So hopefully I'm higher than you.
The best in the country.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Best piece of advice you have for a Woodlad listener now? You've given almost 300 gold piece of advice already through this, so.
No, I was trying to have a think about this as we keep getting our time zones wrong, and I was trying to wake you up in the middle of the morning. Um, I think the biggest one is, yeah, actually just enjoy the journey. And like I said before, it goes so quick. So it's actually just stop, and when you do accomplish something and you set a goal, because I've always been a massive goal setter, when you do actually achieve that goal, is actually enjoy it and reward yourself. Um, it's something that I had to get better at. Like I love setting goals, I love doing it, and then within 2 hours I'd set a new one. But one thing I learned is actually you got to take your family along with you. So when I achieved a rugby goal, it was reward not only myself, but it was reward my wife and my kids. So when I had a really good game or consistent 3 good games in a row, Hannah and I would go out for dinner.
Mm.
And all of a sudden it took, something like that to actually get more out of myself, because I get home and Hannah's like, "Oh, you've played 2 good ones in a row." Third one, and we get to go out for dinner. And
She's
not
supporting
saying that you
that,
don't go out
yeah.
for dinner if you're terrible, but it takes everyone to play really well. And I know for myself, like Thorny said it to me early. When you get married and have kids, your game will only get better because you'll have to prioritize what's important. But the main thing is actually taking them along for the ride, because if they're not happy, you'll show it on field. So um, set your goals, but reward yourself when you do achieve
I
it.
love that. And it's something that has never really popped up around bringing your family with you and how much of a part they play in your career. Um, Very cool, mate. How good? How good has it been having Sam Whitelock on the Waterloo podcast? This has been one of the all-time greats.
Oh mate, I love it how you say the same thing for everyone, and it's so good for the ego. Like it pumps you up, makes me feel good. I want to go train now, even though it's getting a bit late here. But
No, but it has been awesome. Like from where I saw you back at under 19s was sort of when I first came across you, and to witness what you've done has been truly incredible. So you've broken so many records, some of your performances and everything we've spoken about in the podcast with your consistency, your leadership has just been so impressive to watch. And like I got to have a little glimpse of how you work on the inside last year, and blew me away with the influence you have on that side. And yeah, it's been awesome to have you on the podcast and sort of go through it and reflect on what has been a really special career.
yeah, it's one of those ones, like, very humbling. Like, you've been teasing me about it for a wee bit to come on, and when am I going to get you on? But
Yeah.
it is one of those moments you actually just stop and think a little bit. And I think it's going to happen a little bit more as it gets closer to the end. Is actually just going to I'm going to reflect a little bit more. And it's actually quite cool talking through part of it, and it brings back some memories, and you go, "Oh, that's pretty
Mm.
awesome." But yeah, it's always cool hearing everyone's stories, because everyone has a different story and different challenges along the way.
That's
So yeah,
it.
it's pretty cool to be a part of it. And thanks for having me on.
Mate, you're a true legend. Appreciate it, mate. You're a lad.
Easy.